What if there was no friction for 1 minute? You're walking down a familiar street on a bright afternoon. The air smells faintly of fresh bread from the bakery across the road. A dog trots happily beside its owner, the sound of its paws tapping against the sidewalk. Your shoes make that quiet, reassuring scuff with each step. Everything feels normal, until, in the space between one breath and the next, the world changes. You take a step forward, but your foot doesn't stop where it should. It glides forward as if the ground has turned to polished ice. You throw out your arms to steady yourself, but your fingertips slide off the rough metal of a lamppost as if it's been dipped in oil. Somewhere behind you, a cyclist yells in panic as their tires spin, hissing with nothing to grip. The sound is strange, lacking the usual vibration of rubber on pavement. In the distance, the deep roar of car engines is replaced by a high-pitched screech, followed by a chilling silence as vehicles begin to drift like giant, helpless pucks. Everything with contact, feet on ground, tires on asphalt, hands on railings, has lost its connection. You try to kneel, but your knees shoot out from under you. A delivery van slides sideways across an intersection, its driver gripping the wheel in vain. Pedestrians clutch at each other, but even skin on skin offers no resistance. People tumble into storefront windows, not because they're pushed, but because momentum has become the only law left standing. For exactly 60 seconds, the universe has switched off one of its most essential forces, friction. There is no traction, no grip, no resistance anywhere on Earth. The ground is no longer something you can push against. It's just a surface that politely allows you to keep going, whether you want to or not. Pens roll off desks, plates drift off tables. A child's balloon, slipping from its string, skates along the floor instead of floating upward. Its tether no longer catching on anything. It's not just walking or driving that's affected. In a world without friction, the simple act of holding anything, your phone, a cup of coffee, the railing of a staircase, is impossible. You can't stop moving unless something massive blocks you, and even then, you'll bounce away. Gravity still pulls you down, but it doesn't help. It only makes your uncontrolled sliding faster. We rarely think about friction. It's the quiet, invisible partner in almost every moment of our lives. It's why you can stand up without bracing yourself, why your car obeys your steering, why a pen leaves ink on paper instead of slipping uselessly across it. Without it, the physical rules of daily life collapse in an instant. 1 minute doesn't sound long until you're living inside it. In this 60-second window, every assumption you've ever made about control, stability, and safety is gone. And for the first time, you understand just how fragile your grip on the world really is. To grasp how strange and terrifying a frictionless world is, we have to first appreciate the one we live in now. A world absolutely soaked in friction. It's in the grip of your shoes on the sidewalk, the roughness of paper beneath your pen, the way your fingers can hold a coffee mug without it slipping away. It's in the contact between gears inside your watch, the way a basketball spins in your hands, the security you feel leaning against a wall. Friction is so ordinary, so constant, that it hides in plain sight, an invisible foundation for almost every human action. On a microscopic level, no surface is truly smooth. Even polished steel is covered in tiny ridges and valleys. When two surfaces meet, these microscopic peaks interlock, and the atoms at the contact points interact through electromagnetic forces. This resistance to sliding, whether it is your foot on the ground or a train wheel on a track, is what we call static friction. Once motion begins, kinetic friction takes over, still resisting movement but with slightly less force. Even rolling objects, like car tires, feel a form of friction that eventually brings them to rest. Without these constant, tiny battles between surfaces, the world would never stand still. From a social and technological perspective, entire industries are built on controlling friction. Automakers design tire treads to grip better in rain. Athletes use shoes with specific soles to maximize performance. Construction workers rely on gloves that keep tools from slipping. In factories, conveyor belts move products forward because friction lets them push and pull. Friction is not just convenience, It is stability, safety, and efficiency woven into every interaction between people and objects. But friction doesn't only happen between solids. Air itself has viscosity, which creates drag on moving bodies, slowing them down and helping stabilize motion. That's why parachutes work, why your hand meets resistance when you wave it, why sound behaves the way it does. Friction is also what turns movement into heat, letting brakes stop cars or matches ignite from a strike. In our current reality, friction is the silent enforcer of order. It keeps cars from sliding into intersections, lets you climb stairs without thought, and makes a game of soccer possible. Without it, the delicate balance of daily life collapses, not gradually, but instantly. And so, before imagining the chaos to come, we must understand that our entire civilization is balanced on the thin, invisible layer of resistance between every surface we touch. It begins so subtly that no one realizes what's happening. In a high-rise office, a pen slips from an executive's fingers mid-signature and slides across the desk like it's fleeing. A child, playing with a toy car on the floor, watches in wonder as it rolls far beyond the usual stopping point, crossing the room and bumping the wall without slowing. In a busy cafe, a barista tips a cup toward a customer, but instead of staying in hand, it glides forward, crashing to the floor in a perfect arc. Within seconds, the small oddities snowball into something unmistakably wrong. On a city street, a cyclist's tires spin helplessly, rubber squealing against pavement, but producing no forward push. The rider topples, sliding sideways into traffic. Cars that were traveling at steady speeds begin to drift, unable to stop or change direction. Drivers pump brakes in vain, feeling the pedals sink underfoot but sensing no bite, no resistance. The sounds of urban life change, screeches without grip, thuds without friction's muffled cushion. People walking on sidewalks feel the betrayal of the ground itself. Each step becomes a slide, momentum carrying them forward whether they wish it or not. Instinct drives them to grab railings, poles, walls, only to feel those surfaces melt away under their touch. Even skin-to-skin contact offers no security. Couples clasp hands and watch in disbelief as their fingers slip apart as though greased. Inside homes, chaos mirrors the streets. Knives slide off counters, books drift from shelves, chairs skate across hardwood floors. In factories, conveyor belts spin uselessly, products pooling at the start. On runways, pilots struggle to control aircraft as wheels lose every bit of traction, forcing planes to coast far past intended stopping points. What makes it so surreal is the mix of silence and motion. Without friction, there's less of the usual grinding, rubbing, or scraping. Objects don't slow down naturally, they just keep going until they hit something solid enough to redirect them. And so, for the first time in human history, billions of people across the planet experience the same unsettling truth. The world no longer has a way to hold you still. No one yet knows how long it will last, but the shock is universal. Every instinct, every unconscious calculation your body makes to stay upright or move with control has been erased. And in its place, there's only one rule now. Once you start moving, you don't stop. In the opening seconds, confusion is the loudest sound in the air. People stumble forward, waving their arms, expecting the ground to catch them like it always has, only to find themselves sliding into strangers, storefronts, and parked vehicles. A man carrying grocery bags watches helplessly as apples and bread loaves skate away down the street. At first, there's laughter from those who think it's a prank or an odd weather effect, but within 10 seconds, the humor evaporates. On highways, the reality is brutal. Cars and trucks, stripped of braking power, glide forward at deadly speeds. Drivers twist their steering wheels only to discover that even turning is useless. Tires spin freely without friction to bite into the asphalt. Multi-vehicle collisions form tangled masses of metal that keep sliding, pushing wreckage into more wreckage. In rail stations, trains barrel through platforms without slowing, their steel wheels offering no grip on tracks. In cities, pedestrians try desperate tricks, dropping to their knees, crawling, digging fingers into cracks in the pavement, but nothing works. Friction is gone everywhere, from the soles of shoes to the fibers in gloves. In kitchens, pans slip from stoves. In hospitals, gurneys roll away from nurses. In factories, heavy machines vibrate and slowly shift off their foundations. The chaos is strangely quiet compared to normal accidents. Without the grinding sounds of contact, crashes are sharp, almost surgical, followed by eerie sliding. The few moments of novelty, someone effortlessly gliding 20 feet across a marble floor, are swallowed by panic. People can't get out of the way of danger. A bus skids sideways through an intersection, its passengers pressed helplessly against windows. Cyclists spin like tops, their bikes twisting underneath them. Even inside offices, computer mice and keyboards drift across desks, papers sliding into piles on the floor. By the halfway point, 30 seconds in, every person alive has felt the violation of trust between their body and the ground. Without friction, there is no balance, no control, no safety. It's a perfect democracy of helplessness. The wealthy, the poor, the strong, the weak, all are equally at the mercy of momentum. And though the minute is not yet over, the damage has already begun to etch itself into history. When the 60th second finally ends, the change is almost imperceptible at first. A shoe heel grips the pavement again. A pen stays put when set down. Tires bite into asphalt, halting cars mid-drift. But the world does not breathe a sigh of relief. It gasps in shock. Everywhere, the damage is already carved into the landscape. Highways are choked with twisted metal, the result of collisions that began seconds into the event and cascaded until the moment friction returned. Some vehicles have overturned. Others have jackknifed into concrete barriers. Emergency responders, still regaining their footing, pick their way through wreckage. In shipping ports, cargo ships that had been drifting uncontrolled now sit jammed against docks, their hulls scraped and bent. In airports, aircraft that overran runways lie stranded in grassy fields. The human toll is staggering. Hospitals are flooded with patients suffering from broken bones, concussions, and deep bruises, injuries from slides into hard surfaces or from tumbling in crowds. Some victims bear burns from skin scraped across pavement at unnatural speeds, even without the usual heat generated by friction. Families are separated in the chaos. Entire neighborhoods spend hours locating missing loved ones. The environmental impact is equally grim. Tanker trucks toppled during the minute have spilled chemicals into waterways. Factories that lost control of their machinery report fires and toxic leaks. Wildlife has been startled into mass displacements. Birds collided mid-air when the air's drag briefly changed, throwing off their flight patterns. Economists quickly put numbers to the catastrophe. Billions in damages are recorded within hours, but they warn the true cost will ripple for years. Insurance companies brace for claims they could never have modeled. The transportation sector faces a global shutdown as authorities demand inspections and new safety protocols. Psychologically, the world is changed. People walk with a newfound hesitancy, some unable to trust their footing. Conspiracy theories erupt online. Some blame secret military experiments. Others suggest an astronomical phenomenon or alien interference. Scientists, still without answers, admit on live television that they do not know if it will happen again. The minute is over, but its shadow stretches far into the future. Friction has returned, but so has a question no one can unthink. If it vanished once, what's stopping it from vanishing again? To understand what happened in that minute, scientists begin with a simple truth. Friction is not a single force, but the result of countless microscopic interactions. At the atomic scale, no surface is perfectly smooth. Even glass, polished to a mirror finish, has tiny ridges and valleys. When two surfaces meet, their irregularities interlock like miniature mountain ranges, and the atoms at the contact points exert electromagnetic forces on one another. This combination of mechanical interlocking and molecular attraction is what we call static friction, the invisible grip that keeps an object at rest until enough force pushes it into motion. Once movement begins, kinetic friction takes over. It's slightly weaker than static friction, but still works to resist sliding. Rolling objects like wheels or balls experience rolling friction, which is much smaller but still essential. And friction isn't only a solid-on-solid phenomenon. Fluids produce resistance too. The drag you feel when moving your hand through water or air is a type of friction that slows motion and stabilizes flight. For friction to vanish everywhere at once, something fundamental must change at the level of physics itself. One theory suggests a temporary alteration in the electromagnetic force, perhaps a fluctuation in the fine structure constant, the value that controls the strength of electromagnetic interactions between charged particles. Even the tiniest shift in this constant would disrupt the stickiness between atoms, making surfaces behave as though they were infinitely smooth. Another hypothesis is more exotic. An unknown quantum event, perhaps triggered by a burst of energy from deep space, briefly altered how particles exchange photons, the carriers of electromagnetic force. Without this exchange, contact points between surfaces would lose their grip instantly. The effect would spread globally at the speed of light, making it impossible to contain or predict. What makes the mystery even stranger is that, during that minute, heat generation from motion stopped as well. Normally, friction converts movement into thermal energy. Rubbing your hands together warms them because microscopic collisions between atoms generate heat. In the frictionless minute, surfaces slid without warming, further proof that something had interrupted the very interactions that make matter behave the way we expect. In labs worldwide, physicists feed mountains of data into supercomputers, trying to model how such an event could occur. Yet even the most advanced simulations return the same unsettling answer. By all known laws of physics, it shouldn't have been possible at all. In the weeks after the event, the physical wreckage begins to clear. But a different kind of damage spreads, one you can't sweep off the streets. The true crisis is no longer the minute itself, but the fear that it could happen again. If friction, a constant we've trusted since the dawn of life, can vanish once, what guarantee do we have that it won't vanish tomorrow? Insurance markets collapse under the weight of unquantifiable risk. Companies refuse to issue new policies for transportation, shipping, or manufacturing unless clients can prove they have frictionless contingency plans, an absurd requirement no one knows how to meet. Airlines face passenger boycotts, freight companies halt operations. Even sports leagues suspend seasons, unwilling to risk an unpredictable slide turning a game into a disaster. Governments scramble to reassure the public, but their own leaders are gripped by paranoia. Military officials privately admit that a frictionless battlefield would be uncontrollable. Tanks unable to maneuver, soldiers unable to stand, missiles overshooting targets. Navies imagine ships drifting into collisions without the ability to slow down. The scenario is so nightmarish that generals across rival nations quietly agree. If it happens again, war itself might be impossible to fight, but chaos will still claim countless lives. Urban life changes almost overnight. Some cities mandate that public spaces be retrofitted with passive anchors, netting, magnetic strips, or retractable barriers designed to catch sliding bodies. People wear spiked footwear and gloves even indoors. Schools add friction drills alongside fire and earthquake training, teaching children to brace against walls or wedge themselves into corners. On the streets, a kind of low-grade dread hums beneath daily routines. Parents walk their kids to school with backpacks modified to latch onto metal poles. Shoppers choose carts with built-in magnets. Even handshakes feel different, firmer, as though everyone is making sure the contact will last. Meanwhile, in research labs, teams work without rest, combing through every satellite record, every seismic reading, every scrap of sensor data from that minute. They find nothing. No cosmic burst, no seismic anomaly, no trace of an artificial weapon. The lack of evidence is not reassuring. It's a void that swallows answers, leaving only the possibility that the universe itself can, at will, rewrite its own rules. Fear alone cannot hold the world still forever. Within months, the shock begins to transform into something more determined, a collective resolve to make sure the next time won't catch humanity flat-footed. Engineers, scientists, and inventors converge on a single question: how do you design a world that works even when friction doesn't? The first breakthroughs are physical. Researchers develop surfaces embedded with microscopic hooks and interlocking patterns that function mechanically rather than relying on atomic stickiness. These micro-latch materials can still grip even in a frictionless environment, though they require precise alignment. Others design electromagnetized flooring for public spaces, paired with wearable boots containing magnetic plates, ensuring people can anchor themselves instantly. Transportation undergoes the most radical overhaul. Cars and trucks are fitted with deployable spikes and suction systems capable of locking wheels to the ground. Trains receive emergency clamp brakes that grip rails like a vise. Aircraft are equipped with landing gear that can dig into runways or use reverse thrusters to stop entirely without relying on wheel traction. On the societal front, friction kits become as common as first aid boxes. They contain gloves with retractable claws, magnetized grips, and lightweight tethers that can hook into fixed anchors. Public buildings install safety rails designed to work without friction, using catch mechanisms, mesh nets, or even adhesive gels that activate on contact. The cultural shift is equally striking. International politics pauses its usual rivalries as nations agree to share research openly. A global stability network is formed, pooling resource and data in real time. Scientists from countries that once refused to cooperate now trade schematics because the threat is universal. Physics does not recognize borders. Schools adapt too. Children practice locking themselves to walls during drills, and design competitions challenge them to invent tools for a frictionless minute. Media outlets run public education campaigns, explaining how to stay safe if it happens again. While fear still lingers, it now walks alongside innovation. Humanity is no longer just waiting for disaster. It is building toward the unthinkable, determined that if the laws of the universe falter again, we will not slide helplessly into chaos, but stand ready to grip the future on our own terms. Years later, the memory of the frictionless minute still clings to the world, but now it's woven into the fabric of everyday life. The changes are visible everywhere. City streets gleam with magnetized crosswalk panels, ready to activate in emergencies. Public buildings have anchor points every few meters, designed to catch a sliding body like a climber's carabiner. Even playgrounds are built with retractable mesh systems that can spring into place in seconds. Transportation looks different too. Cars hum with hidden systems, deployable spikes, magnetic stabilizers, and micro-latch tires capable of locking onto specialized road surfaces. Trains run with multi-mode braking systems that can clamp mechanically, magnetically, or even by high-pressure suction. Air travel has adopted friction-independent landing protocols, with runways lined in retractable cleats and arrestor cables like those used on aircraft carriers. People have changed along with the technology. Footwear often contains built-in magnetic soles, and gloves have retractable claws disguised as fashion details. Backpacks and purses come with tether lines that can hook into anchors in public spaces. The sight of someone casually locking themselves to a subway pole during a sudden jolt is no longer alarming. It's simply habit. Culture, too, carries the mark of that minute. Art galleries display massive murals of people sliding through surreal landscapes, half in awe, half in fear. Music festivals host frictionless dance performances where floors are artificially smoothed and performers move with ghostly glides. Historians debate whether the minute was a natural cosmic anomaly or a technological fluke, but everyone agrees it was a turning point, a reminder that even the most basic truths of physics can be rewritten. Perhaps the most profound shift is in global cooperation. The alliances formed in the aftermath have not dissolved. Nations maintain the global stability network, constantly monitoring for any sign of a repeat event. Data flows freely between research labs on opposite sides of old political divides. Even in times of tension, leaders remember that when friction disappeared, so did the illusion that humanity could survive divided. Life has not returned to what it was before. It has evolved. People no longer take the grip beneath their feet for granted. And in the quiet moments, when a shoe squeaks on the pavement or a hand rests solidly on a railing, there's a flicker of gratitude for something once lost, and for the ingenuity that ensures we'll never be entirely without it again. In the end, the frictionless minute is remembered not just as an accident of physics, but as a profound shift in the way humanity sees itself. It was 60 seconds that stripped away one of the universe's most reliable forces, revealing how much of our world is balanced on an invisible edge. For centuries, we believed certain constants, gravity, time, friction, were beyond interference. That day reminded us that even the most ordinary truths can vanish without warning. The practical lessons are clear. Resilience is not about hoping disaster never comes, but about preparing for it in ways that seem almost absurd until they become necessary. We learned that stability must be engineered, redundancy must be built in, and safety must be considered not just for what is likely, but for what is unthinkable. The cities, vehicles, and tools of the modern world are now designed with a dual nature, able to function with or without the grip we once took for granted. But the deeper lesson is harder to quantify. The minute without friction was also a minute without hierarchy. It didn't matter how wealthy you were, how powerful your position, how fast your reflexes. Everyone was equal in helplessness. That realization left a mark on our collective psychology. It reminded us that our control over the world is, in many ways, an illusion sustained by forces we cannot command. Some philosophers see it as a warning from the universe, a reminder of humility. Others view it as a challenge, proof that we must always be ready to rewrite the rules of our own survival. And for many ordinary people, it is simply a story they will tell for the rest of their lives. Where they were, what they saw, how it felt when the ground itself betrayed them. Now, life moves on. We walk, we run, we drive, feet gripping pavement, tires biting into roads, hands holding firmly to what we choose to keep. But somewhere in the back of every mind is the echo of that day, the knowledge that nothing is guaranteed. And so we ask ourselves the question that lingers in every quiet moment. If the world were to let go again, would we be ready? Or would we slide once more into chaos? The world runs on forces we can't see. Some, like gravity, we respect instinctively. Others, like friction, we forget, until they're gone. For 1 minute, the Earth reminded us that even the smallest invisible constant can decide everything. And if it happened once, it could happen again. If this journey into the impossible made you think, imagine where the next what if might take us. Subscribe for more deep dives into the stories science hasn't told you yet, and the ones that might be just around the corner.